Howdy, folks. Welcome back. You're listening to the Doc Owen Show. Glad to have you. We're having a fun time tonight. Some folks may think that I'm all over the board, but trust me, if you listen to it closely, you'll see where the dots fit together. And the dots are focused on a proper result, like the individual or not, but a proper result of the 2014 midterm elections in order to solidify our ability, or at least a chance, of slowing down this freight train of an administration. And, the funny part about it is both parties, Democrats and Republicans, agree that this thing is out of control. It's not working. But there's only one way to ensure that it stops working, and that is take 3 or 4 of your friends that are not registered, get them involved, get them registered to vote, and you guys go down, hold your nose, and vote Republican. I don't like it either on most counts, to tell you the truth. Because, like the majority of the American public, I don't trust them. But at this point, they happen to be in luck. We don't have any choice. The worst part about that is they'll think they won because of what they did, rather than the fact that we gave it to them. That's another point. There was a survey done recently that more than one-third of Americans support removing under God from the Pledge of Allegiance, according to an atheist activist group. All right? One of the lessons to be learned here is something that you learn across your education. The way you ask a question can greatly influence the results that you get back as an answer. You can skew a question ever so slightly, but just enough to greatly skew the results and get the answer back that you want. Here's what happened with this poll. And by the way, the folks that chartered the poll, they absolutely admit that was their intention, was to show more support for removing under God from the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay? And it's significant because it varies greatly. The 30+% varies greatly from the single digit that comes out of a legitimate survey. All right? Here's what they said before asking the question. For the first 62 years, the Pledge of Allegiance did not include the phrase, under God. During the Cold War, 1954, the phrase, one nation, indivisible, was changed to read, one nation, under God, indivisible. Some people feel this phrase in our national pledge should focus on unity rather than religion. And based on this information, respondents were then asked if the U.S. should return to the unchanged version or continue with the changed version of the pledge. So you got two things going on. They told the truth about when it was put in, not necessarily the truth that people think it makes it more religious in nature, as opposed to unifying and supporting the flag that represents the Republic of the United States. Okay? And they also put them on a guilt trip of supporting the original document versus the changed document. Another survey that ran it without that preliminary question found out that only 8% of those surveyed said it should be removed. They're messing with the young people's heads. They've been doing it. They're going to continue to do it. We must be forever watchful. I know that millennials have this thing about big government, federal government. They've been somewhat brainwashed to think that it is in their best interest and it can be used as a force of good. Hogwash. Ain't no way. No other way to put it. Can't sugarcoat it. You've been fed a bowl full of mush. We got to get that out of your brain and help you understand that liberty and freedom are God-given rights, and anything less is imposed by mankind that wants to control your every action. Period. And they will do it very subtly. The title of this article was "The War on Poverty Has Been a Colossal Flop." I was around when the War on Poverty was started in 1964. I was active. I'm from Texas. LBJ did it. He kicked it off. And since he kicked off the War on Poverty, we have spent, as a country, $22 trillion in the War on Poverty. Let me tell you how some of the folks currently living in poverty live. All right? 75% of the folks getting handouts from the United States of America, our tax dollars. All right? This doesn't include unemployment. It doesn't include Medicare. And it does not include Social Security. It's there's like 80 means-tested programs, which means you have to qualify to get these subsidies. They're subsidies. Food stamps, subsidized housing, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. All right? 75%, nearly three-quarters of these poverty-stricken individuals have a car or truck. 31% have two or more cars or trucks. 67% have cable or satellite television. 43% have internet access. 50% have a personal computer, and 1 in 7 have two personal computers. More than half of poor families with children have video systems such as Xbox or PlayStation. 25% have a digital video recorder system such as a DVR or TiVo. All right? 92% of them have a microwave oven, and 40% have a widescreen plasma or LCD television. Poverty ain't bad in this country. Over 50% of them live in a larger apartment than the average size in France, Germany, or Belgium. It is ridiculous. Here's an article that, as a professor, I found interesting. It starts out with a guy says he worked for 25 years in schools, and I remember a time when a 6-foot, 17-year-old student picked up a metal chair and threw it at me. I sent the student to the security office under police escort. The student was African American, which does not matter to me, but it obviously mattered to the school. The school told me later I had crossed a line, since I was now guilty of referring too many African American students for behavior problems. He countered by saying that his criteria for a behavior referral was behavior, not ethnicity. And it goes on. They are forced to equalize outcomes. The professors are. The teachers are. It has nothing to do. It's about watching the quota. And you can't refer more African Americans, a higher percentage of African Americans than you have in the overall school. All right? The solution, he says, is colorblindness, which is absolutely true. If people feel free to treat everyone equally in a colorblind civil society, outcomes would improve of their own accord and without the need for government force in so many areas of our lives. Government intrusion always hurts because it disrupts the natural working out of issues among people. In the end, it is government that is the problem. The bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. Plain and simple. It is an enduring principle that will always prove true, and Americans must learn this, lest American freedom be lost utterly or at a minimum be hopelessly diminished. It was Ronald Reagan that said, communism is but one generation away. We have an election coming up in a little over a month, November the 4th. Everybody take a deep breath, because we've got an entire generation on the line November the 4th. Not 2016. Sorry, November the 4th. House, Senate races. That's when it's going to happen. That's when the decisions are going to be made. Just so you'll know, immigration issues continue. There is such huge opportunity to get involved with that and stand the ground. I just see article after article that it's not in the news anymore. They're doing their best to keep it out of the news. We need to put it in the news. I mean, the numbers are absolutely phenomenal at what has happened since 1975 and accelerated greatly since 2008 in terms of the number of immigrants that are allowed to stay here. And as we know from the recent onslaught of the Texas border, southern border actually, all the way over to California, they're being encouraged to come here. And now we learn that we are dumping entire Muslim communities from the Middle East into the United States at the direction of the United Nations. WTF, folks? Is there no one else out there willing to stand up? They're giving it away. The current administration and these fiddle-faddle, silly liberals are giving it away. The title of this article, I wish I had more time to get into it. Moderate Islam isn't what Muslims believe. Muslims do not believe in moderate Islam. They know better. But it is what liberals believe that Muslims believe. You got that? Because liberals have never read the Quran. They've read books published by other liberals about the Quran. Because those books don't offend them. So that's where their information comes from, is one-off and slanted. There is you've heard me talk about the militarization of police forces. It continues to go on. It continues to stay out of the mainstream media, but it is absolutely going on. And there are movements in the United States of certain towns and cities to outsource this sort of activity to Blackwater-type organizations. Blackwater is a contractor that was used in the Middle East. There's a company called Lear, L-E-A-R, Asset Management, that has been hired by a town in California to act as the pot police, to drop down out of helicopters and chop up people's gardens and then retract back into their helicopter. Okay? We've got about a minute left to go, and then we're going to play our closing ditty for you, during which you're supposed to replace the word rock with the word duck and think podcast, because that's where it's at. You never ever lose the chance to share something that you've heard on the air with a friend of yours. And we really appreciate you doing that. The downloads of the podcast continue to increase. So try to connect the dots from tonight. It's all about going out and voting, and it's voting in a way that you may not be totally supportive of. You're not going to the polls as a positive approach, feeling good about what you're doing. But I would submit that you should. You can go, you can vote